Hello and welcome to my channel. Vice Rhino here. Cirrus over there.
Hello.
Cirrus was just telling me about that time his leg got crushed by a Ford excursion.
Yeah, that was not fun. Not a thing I want to have happen ever again. But yeah, don't get your leg crushed, people. It's not a fun experience. Not really.
Yeah, well, I used to work I wasn't myself a valet, but I was in the valet department. I was the guy who like wrote the tags for them and collected the keys and did all the guest interactions and everything.
Yeah.
I was hit by no less than 3 cars, all driven by valets. I watched a valet run over the foot of another valet, and then like he heard him yell out, so he stopped. And when he stopped, he happened to be like right on the foot. So it was like, no, it would have been better if he just kept going, man.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
Yeah. That was that was not a fun job.
Yeah, mine was a friend decided that he needed to pull up very close to my car. And that was too close for me to close my trunk. Luckily it was at my house. We were all piling into the house to play card games. And I asked him, hey, could you back up your truck for just a little bit so I can close my trunk properly? He backs up his truck a couple feet and then he goes into park. And then the vehicle decided not the little roll that it does where it scoots forward a bit. This a brake failure.
Oh.
So the car rolled downhill into me and was not stopped by any type of friction. It was just my leg between the two vehicles.
That's not fun.
That was very, very, very not fun. But so like day one, I wasn't really able to walk for more than like a hair's breadth of time because it had just been crushed. And I went on ibuprofen, tramadol, and acetaminophen all at once to give myself a semblance of the ability to move. Day two, things got more walkable and some of the pain had lessened. We're at day 5 now. The overarching pain is gone. It can bear weight for short periods of time. I can walk on it. But weirdly enough, the bruising started yesterday. And my best guess for that is the bruising didn't go to the surface immediately because it was all internal damage, not external damage. But I don't know because I'm not a doctor. I don't know how these things work.
Yeah, that was going to be my question, to which I've already guessed the answer is, did you go to the doctor? Because like here in Canada, that would have been a foregone conclusion. A car smushed my leg. I am going to the doctor to make sure that there's no internal damage.
I am able to walk on it, so I did not go to the doctor because I am in America.
America, fuck yeah! I saw there was a clip of Bill Maher that was going around Twitter today where he was like talking about how he was really like, oh, people on the left always like compare us to European countries and Canada, but it's really not that good. And then of course, he singled out Canada to show the comparisons that are not necessarily positive. It's like, okay, well, that right there is just dishonest because a lot of the reason Canada is not as good as a lot of the European countries is because of our proximity to the States. We copy a lot of your bad ideas.
Yeah.
Like, I'd still rather live in Canada than the States because, free healthcare and all that. And yes, I know we pay for it in taxes. I know that very well. I know that more than most people because I actually have to like physically pay my taxes. It doesn't just come off my paycheck, and it's a lot of money that I pay, but like it gets
still less than insurance.
Yeah, no, you can actually look at specifically what fraction of your taxes went to healthcare. I don't think I checked it last year, but before that, I had never paid more than $700 for the entire year for healthcare.
Yeah, whereas here, unless you're on an ACA plan, it's like $450 a month.
And that's before deductible and whatnot. We don't have
that's
deductibles and shit. We just go to the doctor and then come home and everything's fine.
I just got fan art was just submitted in the middle of that story of me being crushed by 2 cars. That's
canon now. That's canon now.
It's canon. Yeah, a thing that actually happened in my real life is canon. Fritz Crafts, who's in my chat, actually so he was one of the ones who was coming over to my house to play cards, and he arrived as the brake failure had happened, as my leg was getting crushed. I've never seen that man run in the 5 years I've known him. I saw him run that time, trying to pull the cars apart. Not to great effect, but you know what? I appreciate it, and my leg appreciates it too.
Yep. Yeah, but anyway, my point in bringing that up is that like he was being very dishonest by picking on Canada, but then even some of the stuff that he picked on, he's like, 14 of the 15 cities with the worst air quality are all in Canada, and he showed like the location, or no, in North, like 14 of the 15 cities with the worst air quality in North America are in Canada, and he showed a map, and notably, 13 out of 14 of them were all in Western Canada, in the Alberta sort of area where we have our tar sands that we mine for oil in. And on top of that, Alberta is very much run by the Conservatives. They like, you don't get progressive governments in Alberta. They like, Alberta is our Bible Belt.
Alberta's the Texas of Canada.
Yeah, basically, that's where Ted Cruz is from. It's also where Paula G is from. For what it's worth. But yeah, so
Illa kind of path life.
Yeah, no, he left Alberta and then left religion. So, but yeah, so like it just struck me as like, because he was saying like, oh, I am progressive, I'm for progress or whatever, but like not at the expense of blah 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 blah. And it's like, okay, but you realize that the things that you're saying are actually like, it's the Conservatives making it worse. Like all of the problems you have are made worse by the Conservatives, not by anything else. And like there was another one. What was it? So it was the air quality, and then he brought up healthcare and how we spend this many billions of dollars on healthcare. And it's like, okay, yeah, but like when you break it down per person, like I said, I've never paid more than $700 a year for healthcare. People that make more money than me pay more than me, but that's how progressive tax systems work.
Just reminds me of Dolores Umbridge in Harry Potter going, progress only for progress's sake should not be encouraged. I'm like, okay, sure.
Yeah. Rosina says, watch out for rhabdomyolysis. I don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is either.
You can Google that because I'm connected to the stream.
You have other monitors? I'm kidding. Don't do that. Your ADHD will do it. I've seen it happen.
Yeah, no, well, my ADHD. First, I want to cover the stories that we're not covering before my ADHD forgets that.
Yeah. Fritz in the chat says, I wasn't moving a 9,000-pound Ford excursion, but I tried. crush syndrome. So that's something that you'll want to Google so that you can look for the warning signs of it. Crush syndrome.
So
okay.
There's the hats.
Let's see
start
here.
With Gandalf today.
Systematic manifestations resulting in crush injury, which can result in organ dysfunction, acute kidney failure, multi-system organ injury can also occur. I'm so glad I'm not a hypochondriac, because reading this would terrify me.
Oh, I absolutely am. My kids had lice this past week, and I did not.
You're checking every hat.
No, but like I did not have lice, but I was scratching my head all week. And yeah. Anyway, the news we are not covering. The Trump trial started on Monday. His first criminal trial made history. It's not really interesting news yet because they're still in the jury selection phase. Like the judge did dismiss Trump's motion for recusal. And
I know he was bitching on Truth Social that he's not going to be able to see something for one of his kids because of the trial. But
so his daughter,
the judge literally said you could.
So his daughter runs a marketing agency that works for Democratic political candidates sometimes, which like it's a marketing agency. I imagine if the Republicans went to her, she'd probably work for both at the same time because agencies aren't in the habit of being like, no, I disagree with your politics, so I'm not going to make an ad for you even if you pay me. Maybe I'm wrong there. If anyone runs a marketing agency, let me know. But I feel like it's not just Democrats that she would work for. It's just that she happens to have worked for some Democrats. But also, like, he denied the motion. But also, like, if that were actually valid grounds for recusal, then I feel like Eileen Cannon should absolutely recuse herself because, like, it's not like a relative of hers received benefits from Trump. She was appointed by Trump. And she, like, my understanding is she's very much not qualified for the job that she has now, but Trump appointed her anyway because he liked her views. So, like, if the judge in this criminal case that just started should recuse himself, then Eileen Cannon definitely should. But of course, they don't see the double standard there. But speaking of Judge Cannon, the other news story that we're not going to be talking about, this one's a little bit older, but I did want to kind of mention it, is that Judge Cannon asked prosecutors and defenders to propose 2 sets of jury instructions, both based on one of 2 hypotheticals that she was suggesting for an interpretation of whether or not Trump's documents are personal or presidential. And both of the criteria for the proposed jury instructions were not the way that law works. It was just wrong. It was incorrect according to the law. So Jack Smith, maliciously complied. He filed this big long thing. I read most of it, and it's fun to read because he is not happy with this. But one of the headings for one of the jury instructions he wrote out, for instance, is the jury is incorrectly instructed that the defendant is authorized to possess any personal record regardless of classification, and the jury is then asked to determine whether each document is personal or presidential. So right in the headings for his proposed jury instructions that Judge Cannon asked him to write is well, in scenario A, they are incorrectly instructed, and in scenario B, they are also incorrectly instructed. So here's a third one that you didn't ask for that would be actual correct instructions. And he prefaced this at the very beginning with we need you to rule on this before jeopardy attaches to the case, so that because this is pivotal to how the case is going to play out. So if she rules that she's going to issue instructions that don't actually work with how the law works, then he needs to have time to appeal that before jeopardy attaches to it, because otherwise it'll just be oh yeah, no, Trump is innocent because the instructions that the judge gave to the jury made it impossible for him to be guilty. And then they can't do anything to retry it and get a different judge because jeopardy would be attached at that point, so it would be double jeopardy. But in his preamble, he brought up a writ of mandamus, which is something that's not used very often outside of immigration courts. And basically it is going to an appeals court and saying, hey, this judge is not doing a thing that they absolutely need to do, so you need to force them to do it or remove them. So this could potentially be the thing that gets Judge Cannon removed from this case, which would be amazing. I could see it not going to that. I could see Judge Cannon at least being smart enough to realize that, okay, if I don't play by the rules somewhat, or at least make a show of playing by the rules, then, I can't help Trump out, because, clearly that's her motivation here, is to help Trump as much as possible. But at the very least, the 11th Circuit would be able to force her to actually rule according to, make a ruling on what the jury instructions would be. And then if the jury instructions she was issuing were incorrect, as she has very much hinted she wants to do, that still leaves Jack Smith enough time to appeal those jury instructions. And since the 11th Circuit has so far been very much on the side of this woman's an idiot, just do your job sort of thing, I don't see this working out very well for her.
Oh boy. And these are the ones we aren't covering.
Yeah, this
today.
is what we're not covering. So
seems like we just covered them to a very small degree.
Yeah. It's enough to get okay. So the Jack Smith thing, opening arguments, covered that. Friend of the show, opening arguments, Thomas Smith, because we interviewed him, so I can call him friend of the show now.
You can. It's true.
Yeah. So yeah, opening arguments, covered that. They've got excellent coverage of it, and it's an hour-long episode. We're not doing that, so go listen to that episode of their podcast. Jess is it cannot be understated that it's the 11th Circuit that says she's too much. I don't really understand how the whole circuit thing works down there, but my understanding is that the 11th Circuit is mostly a bunch of hillbillies.
The circuits, from what I remember, are all based on geographical location.
Yeah, so 11th is the South.
Welcome to the Bible Belt, everybody.
Okay, so Oh, wait, there's one more thing. This is not a news story that we're covering, but I thought we should give this a watch because it's amazing.
Okay.
It's just a quick video clip.
Also, there was a fire at the Army's ammunition plant in Scranton yesterday. At the risk of invoking Billy Joel, do we know who started the fire?
On Niger, Jeff, no change in the U.S. force posture at this time. On the fire, I'd have to refer you to the Army because we didn't start the fire.
So I have no idea what the context for that was, but it was an official Pentagon press conference, and I kind of love it.
That's amazing.
Naramda says, Vice Rhino, for all your in-depth non-coverage. Thank you for re-upping your membership or whatever you do to get that little badge thing. I don't actually know how any of this works, even though it's my job. Okay. On to the articles that we are covering.
You don't have to know anything about the job to do the job. You just have to do the job.
I mean,
Probably.
To be fair, most of the jobs I've had, that's how it's been. The people who know the least about it always were the ones that the higher-ups loved the most for some reason. Anyway, so DeSantis tweaks Florida book challenge law, blames liberal activist who wanted Bible out of schools. So, 2 years ago, Democrats repeatedly and forcefully warned Republicans and Governor Ron DeSantis that a new law making it easier to challenge school books was so broadly worded that it would create havoc across the state. Now they can say, I told you so. Well, we've been able to say I told you so for a while. How long ago was it that we covered the dictionaries being banned story?
I think that was a month and a half ago at this point. Might have been more. And
this is still an old news story. This has been going on for a while. And it right away, it was a big shit show. So he backtracked on the law, and he's signing a new bill to narrow its focus. He blamed liberal activists for abusing the law, not the citizens whose objections to certain books account for the majority of the removals from the school libraries and classrooms. But if you write a law that can be abused, and it is very easy to abuse, and people warn you in advance that it will be abused, and then you pass that law anyways, can you really blame the people who are abusing it?
You can blame a lot of the people who are abusing it depending on what they're doing still, but generally speaking, if you make a law like an idiot, then the lawmaker is where the primary concern is.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there are ways he could have phrased
compliance works. This is why malicious compliance is amazing.
Yeah, there's a way that he could have phrased it so that it would not leave it open to just anybody challenging shit. The tightening up that he's done is something we'll get into it later, but the details are if you don't have a child in the school system, you can only challenge one book per month. But if you don't have a child in the school system, why are you allowed to challenge books at all? The whole idea behind this supposedly is giving parents some control over their kids' education in the school system. So if you don't have a child in the school system, why are you still able to control it?
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing to actually care that much. If you're a 60-year-old politician, you're probably not having kids at that point, and you still really want to have a say in this when it doesn't affect anyone in your life, really.
Okay, well, I'm getting ahead of myself here because there's actually it's not the old aging politicians who are responsible for most of the book bans. We'll get to that.
Okay.
So DeSantis said the idea that someone can use the parents' rights and the curriculum transparency to start objecting to every single book to try and make a mockery of this is just wrong. That's performative. That's political. This bill is performative and political.
To be honest, a lot of bills are performative and political in the United States.
Well, I mean,
it's why we put writers on them.
I mean, by definition, every bill is political. That's what politics is passing bills and shit. If you manage to pass a bill that's not political, then I want to know how that happened, because definitionally that's not possible.
It's not political because it's not woke or something,
Imagine,
probably.
Imagine a politician getting upset that something is political. Like, you are political. That's your job.
Your job.
Like, what? So PEN America, a group that fights book bans, issued a report on Tuesday saying that Florida is responsible for 72% of the books that have been pulled from the nation's schools in the first half of the current school year. And the group said that liberal activists are not the ones who should be blamed for abusing the law. The majority of books that we see being removed are books that talk about LGBTQ... Well, they forgot the G in there. I assume that's just a typo. Poor gay men. They talk about LGBTQ plus identities that include characters of color, that talk about race and racism, that include depictions of sexual experiences in the most broadest interpretation of that understanding. And those challenges are being made by conservative individuals and groups like Moms for Liberty. So it's not the liberals who are emptying their shelves. The liberals are targeting a very select few number of books that bring to light just how ridiculous the ban is, like the dictionary. The Bible should absolutely be banned.
The dictionary defines the word sex, therefore bad.
Yeah. So, like, that's what the liberals are doing. They're bringing to light how ridiculous the law is, whereas the conservative groups are the ones that are just spamming the system with remove all of these books. And with the way the law is, if I remember correctly, a book... The way the schools are handling it is as soon as there's a complaint, the book leaves the shelves until that book can be reviewed. But they have so many thousands of books right now in line waiting to be reviewed that you'd have to have a full-time office building stuffed with reviewers just to review them to get them all done in 20 years. So it's effectively, as soon as a book is complained about, it is effectively banned, even if it's not actually banned.
Because it's the only way to make it. It's the only way to make that function at all.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that not being so, that's not functional, but it's the only way to make it do anything. And I guess I have to put up a different definition of function. Function in this case isn't doing something because it's just spinning its wheels because it's the only thing it can do. It can't function effectively.
Okay, I've got a request to read Ezekiel 23:20 in a very sensual manner. That's one of my memory verses. I don't have to read it. There she lusted after her lovers, whose emissions were like those of horses, and whose members were like those of a donkey. I might have gotten the donkey and the horse mixed up, because I often do. But that's it.
To be fair, so did Adam.
He tried them both.
None of these are suitable partners for me. I fucked everyone I've tried. God.
So yeah, the original law allowed any person, parent or not, district resident or not, so you didn't even have to live in the school district. You could then call up the district and challenge as many books as you want, as often as you like. And Rosina sent me $20 saying hugs for reading Ezekiel 23:20. I mean, if y'all are going to send me $20 every time I read dirty Bible verses in a sensual voice, I will get right on top of that. Oh, and Fennec says now Has Been Hotel music is playing in my head.
Yep.
So, okay.
First man, next to die.
Ooh, Morbid Palace cheered 15 bits. Thank you for that. So yeah, Has Been Hotel. The thing about that is that I actually I don't like the songs as much as you did. They were catchy, but they're not anything that I'm ever going to listen to standalone. And I've seen the whole thing once, so I don't actually know the songs. Hat time. So I don't actually know the songs from Has Been Hotel. I couldn't hum the tune for very many of them. Stay Gone, I could do that one.
Stayed Gone's such a good villain song.
It is. Especially because the guy that is obviously a villain for the next season, that is a not villain, this one is the villain of that song. Yeah, no, for the most part, I don't know the tunes. But do you know what Gabby's Dollhouse is?
No, I don't.
It's a kids show where this girl named Gabby is she's a young teenager, and she's talking as though little tiny children are in the room with her or whatever, and it starts with live action or whatever, and she does a little introductory thing, and then a bit of mail comes down her little mail thing in the form of a cat mailbox thing, and she opens it up and it'll be something relevant to the topic or whatever, and then she turns into a 3D animated cartoon, and they go into Gabby's dollhouse and play with her cat toys. But in one episode, they didn't go to the dollhouse; they went to the dollhouse hotel. And there was a song. There was a song that they sang 25 times in this like 10-minute episode, and it was so fucking catchy. And I heard it so many times that I actually know it. And so now, when I think of music associated with Has Been a Hotel, it's hotel music. Hotel? Yeah, except instead of being the Dollhouse Hotel, it's the Has Been Hotel. So it's the same number of syllables, so it fits. So I now have that song. Like, I got that song out of my head not too long ago, but like before I started watching Has Been Hotel. Then as soon as I became aware of that, I started doing it's the Has Been Hotel. Treat you so well, it's fantabulous. Leave it all to us at the Has Been Hotel. And that's not a song from that show, but because it's a musical,
I mean,
and I don't know the music from it, that's what I do.
With those lyrics, that actually would fit in Has Been, because that's just Charlie being cringe. It would just work. Also, fun fact: I love that Lucifer's daughter's name is Charlie, and he's obviously still pissed about the violin incident from the Charlie Daniels Band.
Oh, see, I was going with it's Charlie's Angels because they're fallen angels.
It could be a double entendre, but for me, because the show makes
okay. Spoiler for the show: Vaggie is literally Charlie's angel.
Fuck. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Tales of Atonement says, "Oh please, Cirrus and Rhino doing Stayed Gone would be amazing."
See, I don't know all the words. I just know the tune.
But the question is, though, would you be Alistair or would you be Vox? Can you do the fast speak he does for the first third of the song?
No.
Okay, because
I can do the slow part.
Because I can do the fast speak.
If you get me in the morning, I can hit all the low notes.
Oh, perfect. Morning before coffee. Jacob.
You wish that you stayed gone. And like I can actually hit that note in the morning, like
welcome home. I'm gonna make you wish that you stayed gone. Say hello.
Lesson Lucid says Rhino is Vox and Cirrus is Alistair. Sure.
But the problem with that, though, is as much as I would love to do Alistair's part, if Rhino can't do the fast talking of Vox, then I have to do the Vox part because I can do the fast talking of Vox.
I mean, I probably could if I practiced, but I don't usually practice those things. Like you know how many bits I do in my videos where like, so I'm a semi-perfectionist where like the mistakes that I make really, really bother me. But there are times like if I'm in the middle of recording a video, like often I will get to a point where like I'm just fed up. I just want to be done recording or whatever. So it's like, nope, everything from here on out, one take, doesn't matter.
Stoff says, I love how easy it is to get us off topic. Yes.
Yeah.
Duh.
There's a reason when I cut up the stream, I have a dedicated video to our random off-topic tangents.
And I don't cut off the off-topic tangents.
Those are the ones where, well, I feel we often do callbacks to earlier tangents. So if it's in a separate video, the callback doesn't make sense. But it's kind of funny that I think of it that way because like, like I'm thinking of the new viewer, someone who's going to find like my standalone video on its own. And it's like, okay, well, I called back to an earlier tangent and that, so that needs to come out so that the new viewers, it makes sense for them. But then I have just a video of us talking about random shit that doesn't have anything to do with anything. And the title is usually with regards to something we hit in the middle of it. Like from last week's stream, I titled our random shit tangent thing off my Chrysler rant, which happens like almost at the end of it, and it's like an hour long. So they're gonna be watching this, be like, "This isn't a Chrysler rant." So,
Axolotls is saying, "Cirrus, get Rhino to pick a color. They're drawing this." Apparently, they're drawing us performing "Stayed Gone" in some form or fashion.
Oh well, just do it in the colors of the show. Alistair's like red and black. TV guy is like blue and black. Yeah. Go with that. I need...
What?
I want to show off my kids' artwork.
So do it.
Yeah, well, then I have to...
You just crop them out of the frame.
I know, but I don't like doing stuff like this live.
I mean, I'm here to entertain
Fuck
people.
it, we'll do it live.
Hey, everybody, have you heard about ShamWow? Jesus Christ. Actually, you know what? Hold on. Let me see here. Is this... Can I actually find the transcription? Yes! Oh my god, the ShamWow transcription is there. I found it. Hi, it's Vince from ShamWow. You'll be saying wow every time. It's like a chamois, it's like a towel, it's like a sponge. The regular towel doesn't work yet. This works doesn't work wet. This works dry. This is for the house, the car, the boat, the RV. ShamWow holds 12 times its weight in liquid. Look at this. It just does the work. Why do you want to work twice as hard? It doesn't drip, it doesn't make a mess, it doesn't wring it out, you wash your hands and watch in the washing machine. Made in Germany. You know the Germans always make good stuff. I'm just going to stop it right there. Because that line alone is comedy gold.
The Germans make good stuff.
The Germans make good stuff.
Yeah. No. Wasn't supposed to open that.
There's a video I saw of it was one of the guys who does like impersonations of different countries, and his impersonation of Russia was like, "We are going to start the next world war. It's time. Once we are done with Ukraine, everyone else is next." First person that comes up, United States. You sure you want everyone to be next? Are you positive? And then they go, "Are you sure you want to tell that to my friend over there?" And Germany's just sitting there going, "We must repurpose the Volkswagen factories. We are so back." Like, oh, nope, they're just gonna... Russia against everybody. I guess they're going to deal with everybody war criming Russia. Morbid Palace says, "Wow, sirs, that was wild."
So that is my kid's angel.
It's a good angel dust.
It is a good angel dust. And let's see. I don't think what's... oh, no. Yeah, there we go. And that's Serpentious.
He's just licking a lollipop.
Yep. My kid is fucking talented.
Tales of Atonement says Von Stroheim enters the chat. Wait, Von Stroheim, is that German science is the best science from JoJo's? That was so weird. He's like, his whole story takes place right before World War II. So like, he's a good guy, and then World War II happens, and then the rest of JoJo's happens after World War II. So if Von Stroheim comes back, they could just be like, there was a gray part of his story.
So Fenix says, "Very well done, but why are your children watching Has Been Hotel?" Well, my two youngest have not, and my oldest is they're 14. So like, it's a bit young, but like all of their friends have seen it, and it's not like yeah, there is some pretty deep like the Angel episode. Yeah, that one, like there's some pretty heavy stuff in there that is like, all else being equal, I would rather none of my kids are exposed to those ideas until they're much later, but like they have already experienced they've already experienced stuff that is like not obviously not to that degree, but like their innocence was shattered by forces outside of my control a while ago, unfortunately, and that's but that's, I'm not going to give details about that, but yeah, like authorities were involved, and yeah.
I will say that almost every person who gets incredibly concerned about kids watching adult material, not like pornography, obviously, but like adult material is in something that's R-rated, movie, playing an M-rated video game, anything like that. Every person who gets hyper concerned about that did that shit when they were a kid anyway. And 9 times out of 10, they're the same type of people who will go like, this happened to me and I turned out okay, but then they make a really weird exception when it comes to media they can effectively virtue signal about. I'll just call that what I think it is. I grew up watching South Park and Resident Evil. I think most people will be okay.
Zerask says on the early internet, I was watching much worse at 14. Yeah, I was watching
the early internet.
I was watching actual porn at 14.
I was watching actual porn at 14 too. On the early internet, there was a website that used to feature like gore and executions, like pictures of post executions. And I remember a friend of mine in high school showing me that, and I was like, I didn't know why he was showing me it, but I was introduced to it at 14 years old.
Yeah, I actually have much better control over what my kids are exposed to than any of my parents did when I was a kid. It's like I have like parental controls on their phone that lock everything down, where like if they want to install a new app, they have to ask my permission first. And like they can't just browse the web anywhere they want. And like, yeah, no, it's
Davinia Robin says, isn't South Park transphobic? South Park is as problematic as it needs you to think it is. That is the point of South Park.
Yeah. Sakura says parental controls existed when you were a kid. They were just easy to bypass. Yeah. Well, not only were they easy to bypass, but my parents were split up. My father was very kind of like hands off with regards to that sort of thing. Like I know for a fact that he caught me with porn at least once, because I was an idiot kid who was like, I went to Playboy.com because I knew Playboy was a dirty magazine. And if you put .com after a company name, you often get to their website. And then the website was
I remember pre-Google just putting .com at the end of random sentences, hoping I'd find
something. You can find some nasty shit that way. But Playboy was like, if you want to see stuff, enter your email address. And I thought that was an age verification. So I'm like, if I enter an adult's email address, it will let me in.
Oh my God.
So I put in my dad's email address. And he didn't really talk to me, but he just kind of made a wry comment about it, which that's not necessarily the best way to go about doing that, but like he wasn't going to put parental controls on his computer because he saw it as kind of like a natural development sort of thing. And he was probably like, this was early internet days. He was probably a bit naive as to the dangerous shit that I could have gotten into.
The type of things that would actually be on there.
Yeah. And my mother just wouldn't have even known how, like, I think she tried once, but it was so easy to get around.
The only way so back then, the way that you found out that your kid was doing something untoward on the internet was either it popped up when you typed something in the search bar, on the top search bar. It wasn't a search bar back then. It was just an address bar.
Yeah.
Or alternatively, your computer got laden with so many viruses and you had to start asking questions somewhere. Mine was the latter. There's also... So Davinia Robin says, I know South Park made transition looks like it was easy and you can get bottom surgery without getting letters and such. Again, Davinia, South Park is a satire parody cartoon. If anybody is getting their beliefs from South Park, they need to reevaluate literally every decision they've made in their fucking life.
Okay, but we're also
from top to bottom.
Cyrus, we are talking about people who believe Trump when he says, I am the humblest person to have ever existed.
Oh yeah, no,
like, that's not actually what he said, but that's not far off from what he said.
Yeah, no, I get that, but I like, so the reason I say that, Davinia, on the flip side of that, if you play not Stick of Truth, but Fractured But Whole, the second South Park RPG game, the opening of it when you're creating your character is the most inclusive way you can have a trans character in a video game. When Mr. Mackey is explaining, like, he literally goes in depth on, hey, if you're non-binary, that means this, and it means these things. And if you're this thing, then I'll go ahead and put it on your paper. Because it's him doing an interview for you, but it's the character creation sheet, basically, for the RPG. So that's why I said the South Park is as problematic as it needs you to think it is, because there are just as many people who will get pissed off that it's trans inclusive because of that, when it's made by the game's made by the same creators of the show, as there are people who will get pissed off at its misrepresentations of trans people. It is the point of South Park. It wants you upset at something it did.
It's edgy for the sake of edginess.
Correct. It's edgy in every direction.
Yeah, Man Bear Pig.
Yeah, there are two Man Bear Pig episodes. The one where they were making fun of climate change, and then the one where they were like, okay, but it's real, and they had Man Bear Pig be real as their way of slanting in the allegory. Yeah. Like, again, it's as problematic as it needs you to think it is. That is the entire point.
Yep. Anyway, back to the news item that we're ostensibly talking about. I think I already read this, but the original law allowed any person, whether they're a parent or not, or lived in the district or not, to challenge books as often as they wanted. The new law limits people who don't have students in a school district to 1 challenge per month, which is still too many for people that don't have students there. Your omnibus says, finally.
Hey guys, we're talking about news. Did you know that? Because I was just informed.
Yeah, and so just this week in conservative Clay County, one person challenged 40 books. And DeSantis campaigned very heavily on his education platform, which is basically a non-education platform.
Mm-hmm.
Termo 10 says, were we talking about the news? Oh, yeah. And so House Democratic leader Fentress Driscoll says, it's just a big mess that DeSantis created, and now he's trying to disown it, but I don't know if he'll be able to distance himself from this because he campaigned on it so hard.
That's what happens when instead of campaigning on things you actually believe in, you just spend your time trying to placate a whole bunch of bigots. It's weird when they start doing the eating faces thing. Sometimes it ends up being your face. It's awkward.
Okay, so I just got an email saying that somebody sent me money on PayPal, which means that somebody sent me a tip through Stream Elements, and I didn't see the notification, so now I'm kind of annoyed.
Jessa Proxy says, but he is a bigot. Oh, most certainly. However, as a politician, when everything you're doing is for the purpose of placating a base in one form or another, you can find yourself in some weird hot water.
So yeah, Anonymous sent me $4.20 to say that pun deserved a tip. And I'm sorry, Anonymous, but that was long enough ago that I don't remember what the pun was. So yeah, DeSantis created a big mess, and now he's trying to backtrack because he realized how unpopular it is and how big of a mess it is. So yeah, it's not the only example of the governor having to make adjustments to ideology he championed while seeking the White House. He also made concessions in the settlement of several lawsuits involving the state and Walt Disney World. So if you remember DeSantis versus Disney, DeSantis is such a shit person that he could make me root for the Disney Corporation.
Yeah.
They are fucking evil. Disney himself was probably a Nazi sympathizer. I know the guy who played Geppetto, who Disney had a hand in hiring, was basically a Nazi, which is very it makes Pinocchio much harder to watch. I don't mean Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks is not a Nazi. Tom Hanks is delightful. Don't be hating on Tom Hanks.
I have a friend who his girlfriend's Jewish, and it is very hard for her to stomach anything Disney because of that associated history.
Yeah. They never distance themselves from it, really. And it's kind of gross. And I don't know, I have a love-hate relationship with them because they do have so many good movies. But I mean, modern Disney seems to have lost any sort of passion. They just see what makes money and are like, let's do that more. And then when people stop coming to see that, we will do something different. We will pivot to something different that is easy and makes the live action remakes.
The live action remakes are also done so that they can maintain their copyrights, if memory serves, because there's
that's not how copyright works. It would be the trademarks that they want to maintain, because trademark you have to
trademarks for their copyright, for their merchandising.
Yeah, and copyright just expires eventually anyway, whether they use it or not. That's how Steamboat Willie ended up in the public domain. Jassa says, but have you seen Wish? I have seen the first 20 minutes of Wish. It is... I completely understand the people who say it looks like you asked ChatGPT to write you a Disney movie.
I have never heard anything positive about Wish. So it's weird. Like
it's not like the worst thing Disney's ever put out. Like see the crows from Dumbo, literally one of them named Jim.
So it's weird because
Wish is the Wish.com version of a Disney movie.
The last Disney movie that I watched all the way through, like a new Disney movie, was Encanto. And Encanto was really, really good. And then when I saw the advertisements for Wish, it looked like they were just making Encanto again, but with slightly different people. That's what it. What was the girl's? It looked like to me at a glance.
What was the girl's name in Encanto? I'm drawing a blank.
Girl's name in Encanto. Yeah. I don't remember off the top of my head.
God damn it, because
Mirabelle.
Mirabelle. So you probably already know this, but on the off chance that I'm about to blow your mind, did you know that the voice actor for Mirabelle is the same voice actor as Vaggie in Has Been Hotel?
That makes sense. So every character in Has Been Hotel, after the pilot, because the pilot has a different voice cast, every character in Has Been Hotel, their voice sounds like somebody else I've watched, because it always is. Like, Keith David's is the obvious standout where you're like, yeah, I recognize you. Also, the fact that Keith David sounds absolutely nothing like Husk's original voice actor, so like it doubly stood out to me.
I don't actually remember noticing a difference.
But
it was also probably like a week in between my watching the first episode and the second.
Well, so the first episode isn't the actual first episode. The first episode is episode 2. The pilot episode on YouTube is the actual first episode of Has Been Hotel.
I think I watched that by myself at some point.
Okay. And the pilot episode did not have basically the Broadway cast that we have in the new one. Husk's original voice sounded like this. It's good, but it was very like generic wannabe tough guy.
Apparently we don't want to talk about Ron DeSantis.
Apparently not. Weird.
Okay. Fennec says, I love the new Husk better. Yeah, Circe and I actually just had a conversation right now, about, like today, about how Keith David should be more mainstream than he is. Like, I didn't realize that Keith David was Childs in the original The Thing. Well, I think what everybody thinks of as the original was the first remake. I think they did a different one like the 60s. I might be wrong there. I know there is a movie that like got a modern remake that the one that everybody thinks is the original from the 80s was actually itself a remake. I don't know. Okay. Diehard Anime Otaku says, did you watch the most recent episode of Bluey? No, I did not. I know that it's a big deal. And yes, I am going to. The thing is, my partner wants to turn that into like a big event with all the kids and do it all together. But her kids are on vacation with their dad for the week. So we're keeping ourselves isolated from that right now. But yeah. Anyway, back to DeSantis. So that was the Don't Say Gay bill that banned classroom lessons on gender identity and sexual orientation. And the Associated Press asked DeSantis' office for examples of liberal activists abusing the law, and it provided one. Friend of the show, Chaz Stevens, a South Florida resident who has often lampooned the government. He raised challenges in dozens of school districts over the Bible, dictionaries, and thesauruses.
Yay, let's just ban everything.
That was his thing. If you're going to ban things that mention sex, got to ban the dictionary, got to ban thesaurus.
Got to ban the Bible. That's a weird thing to say in the chat, Jesse. It's me, your buddy, your friend. Absolutely nothing parasocial about it. I do not know who you are, but also hi.
You just crushed their parasocial relationship.
I did. I'd crush them like my leg.
Yep. The change to the law ensures that book challenges are limited for individuals like Chaz, who do not have children with access to the school district's materials. DeSantis spokeswoman Julia Friedland said in an email. She didn't reply to follow-up emails requesting more examples. So, funny thing, the only example they could find of a liberal abusing the system was the one guy who, anytime laws like this are passed, he ends up in the news for showing the loopholes. So So like that's the same guy that sent the "In God We Trust" posters to Texas school boards where it was written in Arabic because it didn't specify that it had to be in English. This is the same guy that erected the beer can Festivus pole across from one of the nativity scenes. Like this is what he does. This is his thing. Is like, oh, there's a loophole in that law. I am going to exploit that. So like, it's very telling that that is the only person they could find that is a liberal abusing this law, so to speak. Meanwhile, you have Moms for Liberty challenging any book that dares to mention that gay people exist. But
imagine that being basically your special interest, as it were. Every single time a law comes out that is easily abusable, you're just like, hey, you should have made this a little more ironclad. Here's where you fucked up. That's just like that is a thing that you can just have as a legacy.
yeah, so I guess he started his whole thing when 11 years ago he made national news when he installed the Festivus pole made out of beer cans across from a nativity scene displayed in the Capitol, and he was delighted that DeSantis' office singled him out. This is so Chaz. He says, when they need to make stupid stupider, they send me up. I'm part comedian, part activist, and part artist. I just want a better society, Stephen said. I'm an idiot, but a smart guy at the same time.
Jesus Christ. That's better than what the conservative version of that joke would have been. I'm stupid, but I identify as smart.
Yeah. Okay, we've got a first-time chat from... Oh, there we go. Fennec's on it. Thank you, Fennec. Just had a bot in the chat trying to get people to go to a website.
Fuck him.
No, I don't want to reward him with my lovely dick.
Okay, so don't fuck him, but... I don't know. Fuck it.
So... In Florida, there's been a long-standing tradition, like this says DeSantis' predecessor, current Republican Senator Rick Scott, but it's been this way for like a couple decades now, I think, is that in the Florida State Capitol in Tallahassee, they have the third floor rotunda is designated the free speech zone, where anyone can just like peacefully demonstrate to show their support or opposition to whatever might be going on in the legislature. DeSantis enacted new rules where people could be arrested for just demonstrating there. For
you're right.
Rather
right
ironically,
rather
ironically, given what a lot of the January 6th defendants are being charged with, the thing that he put it is like trying to delay or interfere with an official proceeding, which like that's almost verbatim the language that is in the statute that the January 6th defendants are being targeted with, except the difference being that like there's a difference between going to the Capitol Rotunda with a sign saying, hey, don't vote for this, and breaking into the Capitol to like violently stop them from voting for the next president. So like one of those is a legit thing that you don't want to happen, and the other is free speech. So
remember, though, the party of lower government oversight.
Yep.
The party of small government.
Oh, yeah, DeSantis would say that he is a free speech champion, free speech defender. He eliminated the free speech zone in the Capitol building. So, do make of that what you will. Chaz says, I didn't realize I have the power of millions. I'm just one guy, and I'm an agitator. I know my role in this. And Driscoll pointed out that DeSantis warned there would be problems with the book ban law passed in 22. He says, we told him so. The Florida House Democrats on the floor, in our debate, in our questioning, we pointed out the vagueness of the original law, how it could be subject to abuse, she said. Chaz is not the problem. It's folks who are taking liberties with the law that are the problem. So, yeah. There we go. Well, it took us an hour, but we made it through our first news story.
We did.
Yay.
I'm so proud of us.
I think that deserves a celebration. And the thing that I can do to celebrate
You're right.
Now, the thing that I can do to celebrate that you are going to fucking hate, but thanks to our last stream, I now have this audio that I can play anytime I like.
Ooh.
So...
I love that I couldn't hear any of that audio.
You can't hear that?
Nope.
Oh, that's because I have it, Oh, fuck. Okay, I need to...
While you figure that out, I'm going to go put pizza in the air fryer.
Oh, everybody in the chat is,
You got this. I believe in you.
Okay. Can you hear it now? Oh, no, I can't. I can't even hear that. Okay, that's not going to work. Game. Let's try game. I might need to... Mixer. Game goes up.
Ooh.
Okay. Cyrus will be back with pizza, and then I will make him very angry by playing that audio. Neuramdaput says maybe him not hearing is for the better. Yeah, maybe. I mean, Cyrus is streaming this as well, so all you guys in Cyrus's end of this.
Ooh.
You're not going to get this much out of him on a normal stream.
Ooh.
That's what he gets for leaving. So we're just going to put it on repeat.
Ooh.
Oh, did somebody redeem a... Oh, there's a hat.
Okay.
Okay, I think I fixed it.
All right. In 5 minutes, I will have delicious pizza. So, what was it? Ooh. Die in a fire. I hope everybody rejects you for the rest of your life. Ooh. Ooh.
I have that on a button now.
Ooh. Can I have the coordinates to your house for your purely innocent reasons?
Sure. Let me just quickly Google the coordinates to to one of the Supreme Court justices' house in a hurry for unrelated reasons. Someone redeemed a hat, so I think I have to put one on.
Tales of Atonement. What? Fuck you!
Oh, did someone just redeem one?
God damn it!
Yes.
Fuck. Fine. Then Vice Brown is probably going to be hitting the record button again because he's... Oh, he doesn't have to! It's not a stream!
I've been recording this whole time.
Oh, whoa. There, you did it.
That wasn't a good one, so here's a better one. Here's a better one.
Oh, whoa. Why? Why? Also, no, I still have no idea who you are, person. Jesus Christ. Old pal, surely you remember me. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
God, I remember the great times we had.
Reploid 404 says, I've never been happier. Ooh, woo. Arizona abortion providers hope 1864 ban will spark change. A blue wave is coming. So this is bad news, but kind of hopeful. So Arizona is, they just passed some shit that made a law from 1864 go back into effect. Arizona became a state in 1912. So they're now literally going back to a law that is from before they were even a state. And interestingly, this is another thing that I learned from what's it called? Friend of the show, Opening Arguments. That's the podcast. Is that the 1864 law, as with all of these abortion laws, was made specifically to protect men, not women. It was the male doctors who saw midwives who were performing abortions as encroaching on their business. So the reason behind this law was not to be like, oh, we need to protect the baby. It was a bunch of doctors being like, these women are getting in on our territory. Let's outlaw that so that they have to come to us for health care. So, it's fun how at the base of every anti-woman law is a man. It's just funny how that works.
We're all bottoms.
Anyway, in Arizona, the highest court reinstated an 1864 law that would ban almost all abortions and send abortion providers to prison for up to 5 years.
Yay! Imagine going to prison for performing a well-known, well-documented, and long-done medical intervention.
So they interviewed Dr. Ronald Eunice, who is an obstetrician and gynecologist who owns the women's center that they talked about earlier, and some color in the beginning where it was like, oh, they were sitting in the waiting room watching such and such a show. Like, whatever, I don't need that. But he's the guy that owns the clinic that they were talking about. He says, yes, the 1864 law is jeopardizing abortion access in the state, but he, like some other providers, believe it will eventually lead to abortion being enshrined into the state's constitution, which that's also happening in Florida, where they have, I think it's Article 4 on the ballot is to add abortion protections to the Constitution. And basically, like, it drew the line pretty much the same place that Roe did. And, like, even after... Like, I think it's 24 weeks for that one, and even after that, there's still exceptions for, like, the health of the mother. So,
yeah,
like, yeah, that would be a good amendment for Florida to have, and it has a really good chance of passing, because last time it was polled, it was something like 20% of Floridians were against it, and they needed 60% to pass it. So, yeah, every time abortion's been on the ballot, it wins, or, well, like, access to abortion wins. So this is a really good way for Republicans to lose power. So hopefully they just do, and then they make it a federal thing, and we don't need to have this fight again.
Republicans generally have been like a dog who catches a car with the abortion thing. Congratulations, you got the thing you've been campaigning for.
But then
now it's not a campaign promise you can make anymore.
But then it is a valid criticism of the Democratic Party that they have had plenty of opportunity to enshrine it in federal law, but have not. So, like, that's valid criticism. It's not a reason to not vote for Joe Biden in the election. Remember, if you want to send a message, vote as progressive as possible in the primaries, and then just suck it up and vote for the guy who's not Republican in the general. That's how you make progress without, like, doing government overthrows and shit.
And Sakura says at this point, I think the Republican Party is a dying party. I don't think so, because mathematically... it's going to be impossible for them to be a dying party, because we are down to the point where there are two parties in the United States. We once had more.
I feel like, I don't know, I feel like the Republicans are on the verge of a split, and there's going to be the MAGA party and then the classic Republicans and then the Democrats. I feel
then that will be a split for one election cycle, and then I don't know. So have you ever seen the channel CGP Grey?
Yeah.
Okay, so have you seen the video he did on political parties?
Probably. How long ago was it?
This was like 3 years ago.
Then probably, yes. I think I've seen most of his stuff.
Okay, so the long and short of it, for people in chat who might not have seen it, is that if you have the voting system that we have in America, then it is always inevitable to end up in a two-party system. Our voting structure can't not end up in one.
Yeah, so ranked choice voting. Let's get some ranked choice in there.
That would allow us to have more parties. But with our system, with the first past the post system that we have right now, and after this I have to go grab my pizza, even if you have a split in the Republican Party, one of the parties will become the dominant, and then the other one will eventually fade out of relevance, and one will eventually have to become a bigger tent, because that's what happened when the Whigs lost their power to the Democrats early on, and the Republican Party was even formed in the first place. This splitting and then big tenting is the natural progression of a first past the post system. It always ends up this way.
Yeah. So I got to read this before it goes away in the chat, but Rosina sent a super chat, says, reminder, C-sections are abortions as they terminate a pregnancy. I feel like that doesn't count for the definitions of abortion that are usually used to outlaw it. I see your point.
Back. The pizza is finished.
I see your point, Rosina, but I don't think that counts. And then Ryan Hall says, I don't care what that person said, Rhino. I thought the cake shot at the end of one of your last videos was hilarious. That's referring to when I mooned everybody by wearing a frilly pink thong at the end of my video and, like, bending over facing away from the camera.
There we go.
Yeah, I should start an OnlyFans.
That was the first words I came back into, but I know you wouldn't be able to keep up with it.
No, I wouldn't. No, we were talking about my my mooning my audience in one of my recent videos on my main channel.
Jeez.
Because like every time I do something like that, there's like, you know, the comments are all divided. There's like a third of people saying never do that again. There's a third of people saying that was hilarious, and then there's a third of people, usually gay men in my experience, that are like, I want to see more.
Give us more.
Yeah, so I don't know. The gay men like me apparently.
Apparently. This pizza's amazing. Saki and I made homemade pizza last night.
Nice.
Ground up some beef and sausage.
Eat more donuts, fill out that ass. I eat plenty of fucking donuts, man. They go to my gut. They don't go to my ass. My partner has the same problem.
No, cooked the beef and the sausage in this like spicy honey garlic wing sauce we got from Pepper Palace.
Nice.
And added in some not pesto sauce, added in some marinara sauce into it as well, along with a bunch of garlic.
Don't get that honey sauce on me. I don't like the way it tastes on my chicken wings.
We shredded our mozzarella cheese off of a block so that we had just like freshly shredded mozzarella on it, and made the dough we made from a package, but assembled it all together with some red and green bell peppers and some onions, and just baked that until it was crispy. And then we coated the crust with the garlic honey sauce too. It is delicious.
Yeah.
I figured out who the person is. The Jesse Nelson person's not a Jesse Nelson. That's Channel Pop.
Okay.
They mentioned They mentioned taking a road trip on the East Coast of America and going to a Waffle House while one of our friends slept in the back when I had an inflatable bed in the back of my car. So that would be Pop.
Okay.
That would be Channel Pop.
All right.
Go back to the UK.
Go back to the news article. So, for now, Eunice is determined to keep performing abortions, which take up about half of his practice, at least until June, when the law is slated to take effect. Notably, this abortion provider is a conservative, and he used to vote Republican, but now he calls them idiots who refuse to shut their mouths about abortion. So, like,
well, they banged the drums about it for years.
Yeah.
It's all they could do. We need to save the babies. Why? So that you can get more uneducated voters? Shut up!
Yeah. And now, like, some Republicans are actually, like, realizing that it's a losing issue, so are not getting on board with it. And they're saying it would take only a few Republicans to join forces with the Democrats to knock the ancient statute down, the Arizona Republic reports, and lawmakers could start the process to repeal the law as early as Wednesday. So, like, that'd be nice if they could repeal this law from the 1800s on regulating women's bodies. Rosina says, do you think a new conservative party would actually survive in the U.S. now? Yeah, I think they'd have a good chance. Cause there's a good number of Republicans who vote Republican because they feel like they have to vote Republican, but they fucking hate the MAGA side of it. Like, yeah, no, they feel disenfranchised because, like, the idiots like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert are making so much noise that that's what people associate with Republicans right now. So they're embarrassed to call themselves Republicans, but they don't have they don't have views that work with Democrats. So they would prefer to vote Republican, but they don't want to vote for those idiots. So yeah, I think if a more reasonable conservative branch of the Republican Party came out, or if they actually split and you had three parties, I think, now first off, that would crush that would cause the Democrats to, like, win by a massive landslide if they split the Republican Party like that, which would be great. But the thing is, when you poll the general population, the Democrats always win. Mm-hmm. When voter turnout is high, Democrats win. On the issues that the Democrats stand for versus the Republicans, the Democrats always win when you look at the whole the population as a whole. So if they split the Republican Party like that and the Democrats win by a fucking landslide, then I could see it be like the Republicans wouldn't get back into power for like a decade or two. I could easily see that happening. And I hope that something like that happens. And I just as much hope that the Democrats don't get complacent with that and be like, oh yeah, no, we win no matter what, so we don't need to actually do anything, because I could absolutely see that happening with the establishment garbage that's going on now. It's like, I very vocally suggest that people vote for Joe Biden in November because we know he's going to be the Democratic candidate. That doesn't mean I like the guy.
We accept that he's here.
Yeah. So like in that situation, like on the one hand, I kind of want the Republican Party to be not strong, but like strong enough to actually present a challenge so that the Democrats have to actually do shit to get people to vote for them.
As opposed to just not being Republicans.
But yeah, I feel like the Republican Party is like, if they suffer a split like that, they're done for at least a couple decades until they get their shit back together.
Paige Walder says $5 says the Democrats fumble the ball if they win big in 2024. I could agree with that.
Yeah. And Ryan Hall says Democrats need to be better. Stop focusing so much on just getting votes and being in power. Yeah. Actually make our country better. Yeah, I agree. In 2016, everybody hates Hillary, but even she can beat Trump. Yeah. Hillary actually funded some of Trump's campaign in the early bit of that election, specifically because she wanted to run against him because he's a crazy person that she felt like she could beat. And she absolutely should have beaten him, but she didn't. And so like that's the kind of mindset that I feel like the Democrats have. But and so this is why I say vote as progressive as possible in the primaries, because that actually successfully sends the message. Like Joe Biden has altered his stance on Israel. Like he went from supporting Israel wholeheartedly and whatever the fuck they want to do to I am very heavily pressuring Israel to agree to a ceasefire because he saw what happened in Michigan. I think it was Michigan. I might be wrong on that, but
and he wants to keep his votes, and the only way to keep his votes is by doing that.
Because people voted progressive, because people went out and voted for not Joe Biden but still Democrat, and it was I think they voted no contest. So they very explicitly they went out and said we are doing this because we don't agree with your stance on Israel. He changed his stance on Israel to become more progressive. It's still not good enough. I'm not defending his current position, but it's better than it was because people went out and did that in the primary. So that is how you put pressure on these old white boring politicians who don't want to change shit to actually change shit. But like when it comes down to it in November, you need to vote for not Trump. Because Trump will Joe Biden will not change shit for the better as quickly as we would like, but Trump will actively change shit for the worse and make it so much fucking harder to do anything for the better in the future. So like
Biden hasn't yet smoked bomb a church.
Not in the States, at least.
Not in the States, at least.
And those weren't smoke bombs in other countries.
No, they were bombs.
Yeah. Although Biden did do less of that than Trump did, too. So there's that.
I'm glad that we can at least have fewer drone strikes per president as time goes on.
Yeah. Less Than Lucid says, vote Cthulhu, the greatest of evils. Indeed. Anyway, even if the law is stricken from the books, abortion providers in Arizona face deep uncertainty. There's nothing preventing the passage of more anti-abortion measures in the future. And in the State House, where election-denying GOP lawmakers recently spoke in tongues with his anti-abortion prayer team, did you see that? I thought about covering that last week.
I didn't see that.
It was fucking nuts. They were like praying in tongues to open their legislative session in Arizona. It was fucking nuts.
Jesus Christ.
It's like that is shit that like they freak out when a humanist gets up and was like, in the name of providing the best good to as many people as possible, let us do our jobs. And they freak the fuck out because that's religious discrimination against Christians somehow. Meanwhile, they get up there and like pray in tongues to open their sessions. Like, could you imagine if a Satanist got up there and did something the equivalent? They like Mark Driscoll, Pastor Mark Driscoll, he's on Twitter right now complaining about the satanic display at the megachurch because there was a sword swallower act that they hired where like he took off his shirt and swallowed a sword. He's like, that's like a stripper. It's the spirit of Jezebel.
Jesus
it's evil.
Christ.
Yeah, that's his whole thing right now. So like, Like, just imagine if a Satanist got up there and started speaking in tongues in the same way they did. They would be freaking the fuck out.
Yeah, because they don't associate it with the God that they worship. Like, I'm gonna be honest. If you speak in tongues, you're either lying or deluded. That is one of those.
Most are deluded, I think.
That is one of those practices that I can say with 100% confidence.
The guy who checked his cell phone while he was speaking in tongues is probably lying, but most I would say are deluded.
Just in there, and then they're just like staring at Twitter the entire time.
He sounded like he was taking a difficult shit. Anyway, Arizona's Attorney General has assured providers that they will not be prosecuted for performing abortions as long as she's in office, which is good, but, like, there's nothing guaranteeing that she's going to be in office forever. And there's a 7-year statute of limitations on stuff like this, so, like, there's a very good chance that she's not going to be in office, and if she's replaced with a Republican who's anti-abortion, they can come after them for things that happened under her watch. So,
yay.
That's garbage. Again, just a reminder, this is an 1864 law. A law from, when was the Civil War? It was like 1867, wasn't it, that it ended?
I want to believe that those are the years that it happened, but I keep
like
hearing from Tim Pool that it was last week.
This is like sometime around, okay, let's see, American Civil War. Not the movie. So it's 1861 to 1865. So this law is from the time of the Civil War. Back when doctors, like, it was doctors that were pushing for this. To be a doctor in 1864, you didn't have access to anesthetics. You had laudanum, so it was like an opiate, and that was basically it. But, like, you couldn't put someone under for surgery. If a soldier got shot in the arm, they would just chop off the arm as a precautionary measure because they didn't have antiseptics, and it was probably going to get gangrenous. Ryan Hall saying dentists were doctors. Barbers were doctors. Like, they weren't actual doctors, but, like, if you were in a small town out in the middle of nowhere and you got sick, you would go to your barber and he would slice your arm so that you could bleed.
You know that scene in Puss in Boots where he dies, comes back, and the dentist, barber, therapist person is sitting there going, "It's my professional opinion, you should take it easy. That's my opinion as a doctor. My opinion as your friend or as your barber, however." Like,
so
that unironically was what happened.
Yeah. Atlas and Lucis says barber surgeon. Yeah. And a lot of the barbers, like germ theory was still new back then. So, like, a lot of these barber surgeons didn't know that they should probably sanitize the knives that they're the things they were using to cut people's hair and shave people's beards before using them to cut into people's skin to make them bleed. So, like, that's the state of medical science when this law was passed. That is regulating how women get their medical care.
When did we stop washing in still water? I'm actually curious now.
It was in the 1800s, but it depends on where you were. If you're, like, out on the frontier where you don't have access to anything and your barber is your doctor, 1864, yeah, you're still washing your hands in still water. But, like, the doctors in the big cities or whatever would have known better by then. At least that is what the 90s TV show Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman has led me to believe.
It took till 1875 for modern sterilization practices and scrubbing of hands to be widely practiced.
Yep.
Okay, that's scary.
And then antiseptics like alcohol, like not the kind that I'm drinking, but like the kind that makes you go blind, wasn't until like World War I that started being used in medical practice. This is it's barbaric, the type of medicine that was being practiced when this law was in effect.
Titan Uranus says, "What is still water?" So it used to be that there was a washing station in houses and in facilities, and the washing station typically comprised
just a bowl of water.
It was usually a bucket.
Yeah.
If you were like royalty, you might have a bowl, but a lot of times it was just a bucket because that was readily available. And you would just wash in the station and then you change out the water at the end of the night. So this was a practice that doctors would use as well because people didn't yet know that still water garners contaminants, not just the contaminants that you wash your hands in, but like the air around has microorganisms that will contaminate still water. It's the reason why when you there's a video of a dude like taking a cup and dipping it in glacier water and then just taking a drink directly, and everybody like looking at the videos freaking out going, that's just still water. It looks clear because it's out near a glacier, but that doesn't mean that you should not use iodine or not boil it or not do something to sterilize that water first.
Yeah. So Carrie Lake, the Arizona Senate candidate, once ballyhooed. Let's use the word ballyhooed more often in our news reporting, shall we? So that's a word we don't see very often. She ballyhooed the 1864 law, meaning she supported it. But now she is behind the Democratic rival in her race. And she's decided that as part of her strategy, she's decided to say like, oh no, this law is actually not good. It's out of step with Arizonans. So hopefully that's too little too late, because like we all know that Carrie Lake is not going to give abortion protections if you elect her. Because she's a piece of shit. But yeah, so when polled in 2022, only 28% of voters in Arizona approved of the 1864 law. That actually seems freaking high to me. 28%, like that's almost a third of Arizonans were in favor of this law. I mean, that's obviously not going to win elections with those kind of percentages, but that still seems abnormally high for like, yeah, we approve of a medical law passed in 1864. But yeah. Anyway, amid the uncertainty, abortion providers say they're hanging their hopes on what's become an increasingly effective way to undo bills passed by Republican legislatures, which is relying on voters to enshrine abortion rights into state constitutions via ballot measures, because access to abortion always wins at the ballot. Always. Senshini says, stop at Stream Elements, send is not food. Which is that's a bot that I set up because I have a treat stream thing where you can actually like send me a burger from Wendy's, which is I think the only thing that I set up on it, because like I did it as it would be neat if somebody did this sometime thing, and then I forgot about it and I never talk about it, so nobody has ever done it yet, and it's probably for the best, because like every time I start a stream I remember that that's a thing, and I'm like, oh, I don't feel like eating that right now. What if somebody sends that to me? That would be annoying. But then I remember that nobody's ever done it, so that's not a risk that I have to, and then I don't bother to update the bot to take it off. So anyway, that's unrelated. Whatever. So in the wake of the decision to reinstate the 1864 law, a popular ballot measure giving Arizona voters the chance to add abortion rights to the state constitution in November is gaining momentum, even as Republicans strategize the measure's defeat. Rosina, welcome to Basic. Ya basic, Rosina. Rhino suddenly gets 20 hamburgers sent to him. I hope not. Because that's the one burger that I set up there is the Baconator, which is a really fucking good burger, but like, no.
You know, it's weird. I used to like Baconators a lot, and I don't...
You are green now, Rosina.
I don't really go for them anymore. Maybe it's because I live like relatively close to a Wendy's, but I don't know. Something about them just doesn't taste right anymore.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Wendy's, I don't know if this is in the States as well, but the Wendy's in Canada have an onion burger now, which is actually really good. It would be better if there was bacon on it. But I just love bacon. What can I say?
Bacon is amazing. It's true.
Feed Rhino's entire family out of spite just for him telling us not to. Okay, if a bunch of you send me Baconators on this thing... okay, first off, I think I remembered to set up the cooldown on that one, So like I can only get like one every hour or so. But if I get a bunch, then yeah, I know what the kids are taking for their school lunches tomorrow. Anyway. Yeah, so Isaacson, a longtime abortion provider, says his medical group will continue offering services until we can't. He worries he might have to shut down for several months before the election brings more clarity about the future. If he shuts down, he will still have to pay rent and bills for leased equipment in his office. And worse, there may be painful layoffs of the small staff that he calls his second family. So, by restricting abortion, you're hurting working people. And he says now they're taking steps back from the chaos and trying to figure out the best way to move forward in the short term. Dr. Gabriel Goodrick, who owns the clinic that provides a third of the state's abortions, says that she was holding... I love this picture here. We need to do more of this like propagandistic type of stuff. It was like,
okay,
I was holding foster kittens in my lap when I learned of the court's decision to revive the 1864 law. Because like Republicans,
oh my God,
the anti-abortion people, they think of people who are pro-life or pro-choice rather as being like a bunch of baby killers who like are plotting in back rooms to sell organs on the black market to make lots of money for their abortions or whatever. So
I mean,
like,
I am, aren't you?
Shh, we're not supposed to admit to that, Cyrus. Come on. George Soros isn't going to send you a check if you keep admitting to that out loud.
His payments have been really scant lately.
If at all. But yeah, so I kind of like that they're kind of combating that like back alley dealing in harvested organs thing with like, I was sitting there cuddling my kittens when I heard about this horrible news. But
meanwhile, you're gonna have some Republican propagandist counter that by going, look, liberals are all lonely cat ladies.
There are fucking billboards in my area from anti-abortion groups that talk about how, like, oh, a baby sucks its thumb from 9 weeks after conception in the womb. And I suspected that was bullshit, so I looked it up. They don't have digits at 9 weeks after conception. How can they suck their thumb? They don't have a thumb. It's a little pseudopod at the end of his little thing. Like it's not even a hand yet, but they're sucking their thumb. Sure, what the fuck ever. Come on. They just lie so blatantly. But yeah,
because they know people aren't going to fact check them.
So Goodrick vows that the clinic will not close its doors. In the worst case scenario, she envisions it staying open to help women get to other states for abortions and provide legal reproductive health care to women in Arizona. Yeah, let's hope Arizona doesn't pass one of those bills that Texas passed, where it's like bounty hunting, like, oh, you helped someone get an abortion out of state? Let's all sue you for $10,000, and as many people as possible can sue them. Like, whatever. I don't know. It's bullshit. Anyway.
Jesus.
Yeah, no, that's basically all I wanted to say on this one. So it's a bunch of bullshit. We're going to end on some positive news today.
Okay.
Very rare thing here, because we talk about the Republicans doing stupid shit, and unfortunately they're very successful with a lot of their stupid shit. So positive news today. Anti-LGBTQ plus bills keep failing. Could the tide be turning?
Okay. I could get behind this.
Yeah, so as trans people continue to be targeted in the state legislatures, they're finding mundane tasks like using public bathrooms and finding new doctors risky, according to a recent poll. So, for example, in Florida, DeSantis, come on, fuck off. Some trans folks say that they're peeing in bottles to avoid harassment that they face in public bathrooms.
What? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it was like we're treating trans people like Amazon workers. Which is a bad thing, by the way. That was a joke about how badly Amazon treats their employers. So
yeah. Falcon fans is like the Democrats don't do stupid shit. So
we're starting off. It's
not that they don't, Falcon. It's that you're an idiot.
I remember Falcon. So now, starting with you, Cyrus. In Georgia, the battle over anti-LGBTQ plus legislation lasted until the final hours of this past legislative session. In the end, no such bills passed or even made it to a vote in the Georgia House, in spite of Republican majorities in both chambers. Was March 29th the day that you were at the Capitol?
Shit, was it? It might have... It was 2 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago? I'll know if I look on my my YouTube channel.
Oh, no, March 29th was a Friday. You were there on a Wednesday.
Yeah, I was there on a Wednesday.
Because I remember accidentally canceling Twit tweets because I thought that was you saying that, like, I'm not going to be available because I'm activisming. But
look, they were doing stupid shit, okay?
Yeah, but your actions made a difference is the point of this news article.
All I did was bitch out Bill Calzert.
Yeah, and being bitched out by a bunch of people who are like, hey, what the fuck are you doing? Made a difference. It made them think, hey, this is a powerful issue that people care about, and if I'm on the wrong side of it, I will lose my election. So, good job, Cyrus. You did a fucking activism and you made a fucking difference.
I don't feel like mine was I mean, it was part of a bunch.
You contributed. You contributed. Don't minimize it, Cyrus.
Stuff.
Yes, and the bunch of people is what made the difference here. So I got a first-time chatter who's asking me to say hi. I don't normally say hi, but it's your first time chatting, so hi. Hi, J Amigo. Frank, XD46. So yeah, Jeff Graham, executive director of Georgia Equality, waited in the state house past midnight on March 29th with around 30 other people, most of whom were trans or the parents of trans children. Graham told the 19th, which is, like, this is coming from LGBTQ Nation. They seem to be a similarly focused news organization. That many had been there all day working intensely to meet with lawmakers. When it was all over, Graham said the exhaustion of the group was palpable. They had just fought the greatest number of anti-LGBTQ plus bills ever introduced in one session, and not a single one passed. Not a single one. In Georgia!
Yeah, they all kind of failed here.
Yeah. No, they're failing everywhere, Cyrus. Like, I'm not talking about New York. I'm not, like, Georgia, well, I don't know if they've mentioned Arkansas, but, like, it's Bible Belt places. They failed.
So I will say one thing that I think helped out a lot with the bill that I was there to protest. And this was not me. This was the general makeup of the lobbying group that I was with. A lot of the people who were lobbying were parents or grandparents of people who were trans, and they were there on behalf of their family members.
Yep.
I think that probably spoke more to the politicians that were there at the Capitol. If you want to know which politicians said what, I did a Twitter thing where I was basically mumbling on Twitter about each conversation I was hearing and from who. But the like hearing a grandma bitch out an old senator because their grandchild is trans and they're advocating on behalf of the grandchild, like, I think that probably had way more weight than anything I did. It's very, very effective to be like, hey, I care about this because I am a parent and my child is like this. Especially for conservatives, where their platform has to be built on the children thing right now because of their stances on abortion. Like, they don't have a choice. They've bit that bullet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so mega politicians in Georgia tried it all in service to their anti-LGBTQ plus agenda, including silencing debate and gutting unrelated popular bills that had bipartisan support to ram through policies that would have put young LGBTQ plus Georgians in harm's way. They failed. So, yeah, I know you're minimizing your part in that, but you played a part in that. You were part of these Georgia politicians who saw people coming out repeatedly to bug them about it and be like, hey, we don't actually support this. And so, like, no one interaction is going to change their mind, but when they see so many of them, it has an impact. You can't walk past these people every day on your way to your job and ignore them the entire time. So, like, stop minimizing yourself, Cyrus. It happened in Florida too. So Florida was also unable to avoid the momentum of the political shift. This session, 21 out of 22 anti-LGBTQ plus bills failed. And this is a marked improvement from last year when they enacted 6 anti-LGBTQ plus bills. And that's more than the 7 previous years combined, according to the Human Rights Commission or Council.
I would hope that it's not just HRC had people out there as well. It was HRC and Georgia Equality. Georgia Equality is who I went with, and HRC set people as well. But I'm hoping that it's not just that it's an election year. I'm hoping it's not just that it's an election year and that's why we're seeing some of those bills fail. I would hope that it's a legitimate zeitgeist shift.
Yeah.
But there is the fact that this is an election year, and that does have an effect on how senators push through bills.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I want to be as happy as anybody else is that a lot of these bills failed. But it's also 2024, and that is worrying enough to me. Yeah. And I don't know if it should be, but to my ill-informed mind, it is.
Okay. Even taking that into account, if they are just voting against these bills because they know it's an election year and they'll be more likely to be reelected if they vote against them, then that shows an awareness that the cultural zeitgeist has shifted. If we vote against these things, like if we vote in favor of these bills, the public doesn't like it. And if I want to keep my job and keep my power and keep my easy money, because let's face it, being in the government in the States right now is an easy paycheck, and it's a big one.
You have all your benefits paid for. You have your vacations paid for.
Yeah,
your base salary is $25,000 a year, and you make a per diem of $230 a day.
You think Marjorie Taylor Greene puts in 40 hours of work every week? No. She fucking slacks off and just takes her paycheck. But like, so they know that their position of power is in jeopardy if they don't support LGBTQ rights. They are starting to realize that. So like, yes, it might be a callous, this is an election year, so if I vote against it, then I can tell my constituents that I voted against it, so they will be more likely to vote for me. But like, even if they're doing it in that cold, calculated manner, the fact that the population has shifted enough to make that something that they see as a favorable thing for them is a good thing. Even if they will go back to voting for these things for the next 3 years. Because like, it's indicative of the larger shift.
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky.
I hope that that's the case going forward.
Yep. Kentucky, every single one of their anti-LGBTQ plus bills also failed this session. So Kentucky has not passed an anti-LGBTQ plus bill for nearly a decade. However, Texas and Florida flooded the news with transphobic attacks, and the rhetoric spread to other southern states, and Kentucky included. So Kentucky tried to pass more bills this year than they have in the last decade, but they failed. Every single one. In 2023, so it was last year, last season, the legislative seasons don't quite match up with the years, so this is not the season they're talking about, but the previous one. Kentucky did pass one of the most transphobic laws in the country. So in one bill, the state banned students of all ages from being taught about sexual orientation or gender identity, banned them from using washrooms that aligned with their gender identity, banned gender-affirming care for minors, and banned students up to the 5th grade from learning about sexuality and sexual development. So this is where my kind of hesitancy with this is coming, is like, are these bills failing because they already passed the big ones and the rest is just the small shit that's going to make people look bad anyway? Because if they passed all the big shit last year, then they don't need to worry about the small shit this year. But still, they didn't pass anything in the last legislative session that's anti-LGBTQ. So that's still a good thing in today's political climate.
It's a good thing. I still worry that it's not good for the right reasons.
Yeah. But it's clear that the anti-LGBTQ agenda is starting to fail both in Kentucky and across the country, and rightfully so, said Trey Grayson, former 2-term Republican Secretary of State of Kentucky. So, like, he's a Republican, and he is now also the lobbyist for Kentucky Competes, which is a coalition of LGBTQ supportive businesses. So, the fact that a Republican can be a lobbyist for such a company is like, yeah, that's shows the greater shift. It's like I've often said about religion, is that like they do progress eventually, It's like the Christian apologists today complain about progressive Christians, but if they go back in time 100, 200, 300 years, they will be condemned as being too progressive, like not with that language, but like, you would allow women to wear pants? How dare you? You would allow women to preach? How dare you? I mean, there's still some that don't allow women to preach and would prefer that they not wear pants.
That's that last one's for very different reasons, though.
That's actually one that I've never really understood, because like, my understanding is like wearing a dress or a skirt is supposed to be for modesty, but like, you're wearing the thing that's open on the bottom that makes access for sexual fun a lot easier than pants. It's like, if you're worried about purity, would pants not? Yes, because pants are more form-fitting and they show off.
They leave less to the imagination.
There are pants that can still leave a lot to the imagination.
Yeah, parachute pants exist.
Log cabin Republicans exist.
Not in the same way they did 10 years ago. They've actually been ex-log cabin Republicans have been very vocal about the fact that their party, their organization got usurped by a bunch of very, very bigoted people. Weird, right?
Yeah. So anyway, Kentucky now joins other states across the South, including Florida, Georgia, and West Virginia, where nearly every single anti-LGBTQ measure introduced in the state houses was defeated. So that gives me hope. Even if it's for the wrong reasons, we can't expect Republicans to do things for the right reasons. But if they do the right thing for the wrong reasons, that's better than them doing the wrong thing.
It's better than nothing.
Yeah. So
it could be much worse.
It does give me hope.
No, that's fair.
Okay.
It's something.
Now, on to the tweets. Get Daniel, their tag is Darwin to Jesus, so that's fun. Says,
boy.
As an atheist, I thought the God of the Old Testament was totally immoral, but when I discovered faith and recognized the Christian God's existence, I faced a tough question. Without a divine standard, weren't my moral judgments just opinions? I realized I had no ground to judge God's actions. Either morality is subjective and just an opinion, or it comes from a perfect creator.
So how about this one? Morality is an opinion. It's an opinion held by you, and also an opinion held by your God. And your original opinion was the correct one.
Yeah, so what I find...
Because divine command theory is still just God's opinion is this.
So, yeah, it is, absolutely. Yeah, morality is subjective, specifically because, like, if subjects don't exist, then there is no morality. So, like, it is, the existence of morality is dependent on the existence of subjects, so it has to be subjective. But putting that aside, I found it quite telling. It was like, he had to convert to Christianity first before he recognized the problem with the atheist moral system. So it's not that there's an inherent problem with the atheist moral system that he realized was a problem, and then that caused him to convert to Christianity.
He took on a belief, and now it has baggage.
Took on a belief, and that belief requires you to think whatever about atheist moral system, and so he thought whatever about atheist moral system. So he abandoned thought. He abandoned moral thought in favor of God said it, therefore it's good.
He took the easy answer.
Yeah.
He took the easy answer, and it shows. This reminds me of the dude who used to work on my computers, who I haven't spoken to in years, and I don't know what's going on with him. But his daughter began dating a Catholic back when I still would go over to his house for computer repairs. And I remember the boyfriend specifically saying in these exact words, I think ultraviolence is fine so long as God ordains it. And I didn't know how to respond to that in somebody else's house.
Yep. Yeah.
Like oh boy. There's some implications to that.
There indeed are. And Oliver Burdick says, Muslims worship a god, Hindus worship a god, atheists worship a god, Christians worship God. So...
no, your god is still a god until any of them have been proven. They're all opinions.
Well, also, Muslims worship the same god as the Christians. It's like Old Testament God is the same god. I know they're like...
Is Allah.
There are differences, but like, there are differences between Christians as well, but they don't call them different gods. So, like, but the differences between the Christian God and the Muslim God are of the same degree. So
Also,
they all worship
atheists,
the same God.
Atheists also don't worship a god.
No.
Unless
We do
unless the god is like my girlfriend's thighs, in which case, sure, I'm willing to accept that is a god that I have. But that's not the same thing.
Also, Hindus don't worship a god; they worship many gods.
There's quite a few.
Yeah, depending on which version of Hinduism you're looking at, there are potentially millions of gods in Hinduism. But yeah. No, this actually kind of reminds me of the early days of the internet. If we go back there, back when I was a good little Christian boy, I joined several Christian internet relay chat channels. And in one of them, I very distinctly remember a Muslim showed up at one point accusing the Christians of polytheism because they believe in the Trinity, but Muslims have the one God. So, like, you ask a Muslim about this statement, they're going to be like, Christians worship multiple gods. And as a Christian, I thought that was ridiculous. How can you not see that the Trinity is three gods, like it's one God in three persons or whatever? But as an atheist, like, I look back on it and be like, no, that was just semantics to get out of the fact that you're polytheist. It's multiple gods. And that's not even getting into the fact that Satan is the evil god, the saints are the demigods, the angels are demigods, the demons are evil demigods.
It's just semantically changing the names of them. Also, the whole, like, what's funny, there was a person who I did a debate with a long time ago who was Catholic. And when I was a Christian, I was a Southern Baptist Christian. Now, technically, I was non-denominational, but I'm sorry, non-denominational is just Southern Baptist 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
And I remember the idea of worshiping a god was muddled down so badly when I was being taught religion in school, because I went to a Christian private school. If you were playing a video game for too long, that was worshiping a god.
Yeah.
That like anything could be worshiping a god so long as you were willing to twist that definition hard enough. So I brought that up to this Catholic person before we ended up doing our debate, and they had to point out to me, like, hey, in Catholicism, there's 3 versions of worship. So, like, if you're a Protestant, you hear worship the Mother Mary, and it sounds like blasphemy because you're not supposed to do that, which is the argument that was given to us about not playing too many fucking video games. That was a form of blasphemy. But then when you're talking to a Catholic, they have 3 tiers of worship, and each tier of worship is for, this is for the saints, this is for the Mother Mary, this one is for Jesus. And it's the same as having different kinds of love, where you've got the love you feel for your friends, and then you've got the love you feel for your loved one, and the love you feel for a parent, and they're all different types of love. But apparently, a bunch of Protestants don't understand that nuance. They can't for some weird reason. So you get buttfuck opinions like Oliver's here. Because again, as a kid, I was told playing banjo fucking kazooie for too many hours in the day was a form of worshiping a deity. No.
Meanwhile, Fennec is over here going, lemon cake.
A god! Lemon cake!
Fennec is worshiping that lemon cake. You go, Fennec. You worship that lemon cake. But anyway, the next one is not in response to this directly, but in response to an atheist saying that, like, hey, atheism means that we don't believe in God, so no, we don't have a God.
That's the point.
Yeah. So then this guy responded to that with, atheists hate what you when you call it a religion because it reminds them of their deep and unshakable faith that there is no God.
Wait, hold on. Religion wasn't brought up in the original post, nor in the subsequent one.
Nope.
And a deep and unshakable faith that there is no God. Then if it's a deep and unshakable faith that there is no God, then the second poster is correct.
Well, then the first poster is incorrect, that the atheists worship a god. No, they have a deep and unshakable faith that there is no God, so that's not worshiping a god by definition.
The fuck?
But it's not a faith. It's just like
reading comprehension is dead.
Well, there's also like this gets into like this. The whole thread devolved into the definition fight. like, oh, is an atheist someone who has the burden of proof and is making the positive claim that there are no gods? Or is it someone who just lacks a belief in God? It's like, okay, maybe for a formal debate, that's an important discussion to have before you go into the debate so that you are using terms in the same way. When it comes to a just random Twitter discussion, if somebody says, I don't believe that God exists, that is not them making a claim that they now have to defend. That is them just saying, like, when you say God exists, I don't believe you. Like, the only time...
Can you defend that claim? Okay, yeah. I said I believe the thing.
Yeah, but the only...
So I do.
The only time you would need to defend that, though, is if you're actually trying to convince the other person. A lot of times these people are just like, yeah, no, that's not how it works. And they don't actually care whether or not you agree with them or believe the same thing as them. They're just like, yeah, no, I don't believe this. And like, if you don't care about convincing other people, then no, you don't have a burden of proof, even if you are making a positive claim. So even if you insist that atheism is the claim that there are no gods, someone can still call themselves an atheist and not care about convincing you of that. It's
just, I don't know if there is one.
Like, not everything...
I don't care.
Not everything has to be a formal debate. And that's one of the things that apologists always lose track of, is that they just are like, oh yeah, atheists nowadays are just about how, like, oh no, they don't have a positive... Well, technically they do if blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, yeah, but your average...
The positive like, claim is I don't believe the thing.
Ostensibly, these people are trying to train Christians in how to talk to atheists so they can convert them to Christianity. But like, if you convince an atheist that the definition of atheism includes an implicit positive claim... That's not going to convert them to Christianity. That's just going to be like, okay, fine. I guess I'm agnostic then. Bye.
But
that's the best case scenario for the outcome of this fight.
You and I both know the quote from, I don't remember if it was Eric Hovind or Kent Hovind, where they said, oh, but you're not an atheist, you're agnostic, and that makes you one step closer to coming to meet my friend Jesus.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't recall ever hearing that, but no. You know what? I know there is a God because I can do this.
Well,
that means that God loves me.
Your skin is not your own.
I mean, technically, I'm just a brain that's driving a skin suit that's, like, powered by muscles over a skeleton.
Technically, everything is a mecha anime because we are all flesh mecha.
We are flesh mecha, yep. Sudden and unexpected. This is the one that's going to get me the strike for medical misinformation or whatever, because YouTube's bots are notorious for not...
cancer?
I don't fucking know. But the CDC has warned that the COVID-19 vaccines have caused at least 14,000% increase in turbo cancer cases across the United States. According to newly released data, there has been a minimum of 6,113% increase in cancer cases among children and young adults.
Wait, how can there be a smaller percentage increase of general cancer cases and then a larger percentage increase of turbo cancer
Well, the
cases?
smaller increase was specific to children and young adults. But aside from the obvious bullshit here, I actually did a search on this. Like, I used Google to search the entire site of the CDC's website for turbo cancer. 0 instances. No turbo cancer. The CDC has never mentioned turbo cancer.
What is turbo cancer?
I don't know. It's made up bullshit by anti-vaxxers who want to scare you away from getting the vaccine. But I looked into it. CDC hasn't even mentioned turbo cancer. So by definition, then, if they haven't mentioned it, it's impossible that they have warned about it. But also, a 14,000, technically, if you increase 0 by 14,000%, it's still 0. So that's not technically incorrect. The CDC just hasn't warned about it.
Is turbo cancer like that thing that happened in the Meat Canyon video where Andy finally got Woody to talk to him in Toy Story?
I don't know what you're referencing, and I'm not sure I want to know.
And it turns out the reason that Woody never reveals himself to a human is it gives them turbo cancer. They just die within a few days. Mom said Sid ran away. No, Sid died, Andy. He died of cancer.
Fennec says, this fact came from their fucking rectum. Yeah. So while you were talking about your Woody, I'm going pee.
Oh, Gainer says they should have kept to their bullshit lore and said turbo autism. Turbo autism. It gives you a special interest in more autism. Jesus Christ. Oh my God, what is that? Falcon Fan says the COVID-19 shot is poison. Falcon Fan, do you have any evidence to back up that claim? Like, do you have any evidence to back up that claim whatsoever? Any at all? First of all, poison's based on dosage anyway, so technically water's poison if you have enough of it. So getting that part out of the way, explain to me how a COVID-19 shot at the recommended dose is poison. That one I want to hear. Davinia says if there's an increase in cancers because of appointments were canceled during COVID, potentially. Falcon says, do you have any evidence to back up? It does not. So no, Falcon, this is not how this works. You made a claim that the COVID-19 vaccine is poison. I asked you to back up that claim, and you responded with effectively no you. That's not how this works. If you make a claim, I want to know where it's from. And then you say that they want us all dead. No, the quote elites don't want us all dead because the elites only get a paycheck when we are alive. They have a vested interest in keeping us alive at least long enough to pay for their pensions before they die. Like they want us working and paying taxes, and those taxes to go into giving them cushy lives and cushy jobs. If the bottom percentile of human being dies, the upper percentile does not get to live off of the fat that we've curled. So, again, what evidence do you have that the COVID-19 vaccine is poison? I'll ask again. Said the AIDS virus is man-made, COVID-19 is man-made. Okay, Falcon, that's not evidence. That's another claim.
Speaking of AIDS...
Now you need to back up the claim that the AIDS virus is man-made.
Remember when speaking of AIDS was a valid segue that I had?
Yep.
That magazine's still behind me. Rosina says, turbo cancer sounds like people not seeing the doctor until they have stage 3 or stage 4 cancer. Damn the U.S. healthcare system. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so that's another thing about, like, when people talk about Canadian healthcare versus U.S., they'd be like, oh, but Canadian healthcare has terrible wait times. It's like, yeah, we do have a wait time problem in Canada, but does that factor in the fact that in the States there's additional wait time from people who, like, if you don't have the money to go see the doctor, you like, if you know there's something you need to go see the doctor for, you might have to save up for several months in order to afford to go see the doctor. Is that included in it? No, it's not, because it starts from this is when I started wanting to go see that specialist to this is when I got to see them. And if you know you need to go see a specialist, you're going to start saving for several months beforehand if you have to pay for it. So, yeah, Canada has worse wait times than the US when you just look from the first time they actively sought medical intervention to when they get it. But when you add in the saving up to afford it,
yeah,
Canada's still better. We still win.
My wait time for getting my leg checked out is going to be forever.
Yeah, and then Scott Dillahunt sent $5 for an...
Well, you know, I have in my hand a about 9/10 empty, so almost completely empty bottle of Tabasco, and the idea of using this as a bludgeoning device on you gets better and better every time I consider it. I need the Tabasco less and less the more times you press that button.
There have been times when I've been like, our show would be easier to do if we were like in the same room and could see each other. Today, I am happy that it's remote.
Yeah, I'm just staring at you like, you know?
If you feel like violence, shall we talk about Lauren Boebert? Some Lobos?
For legal reasons, I cannot use the word violence and an elected official in the same sentence. But yes.
Point. Yeah, okay. So Lobo says, remember when Biden handed billions to Iran? I do. It was just last year. Utter disgrace. So this was with response to Iran sending a bunch of missiles to Israel. So without getting too far into the geopolitical details here, Israel blew up an embassy in Iran. Big breach of international law.
Yep.
Big, huge no-no. Like, you don't do that. You don't destroy embassies. That's just,
and
like, that's huge. So I read a piece on this. Now, I'm going to preface this with neither myself nor Cyrus live in the Middle East. We do not have the life experience necessary to fully comprehend what it is like to live in the Middle East. So we are speaking based on things that we have read, stories that we have heard. Obviously, we can't speak from a personal experience aspect of this. So, like, if we get something wrong, it's like chalk it up to the fact that we don't live in the region. But like, all that being said, genocide is always bad, no matter who's doing it. When Hamas does genocide, that's bad. When Israel does genocide on Palestine, that's also bad. When Iran tries to genocide Israel, that's bad. When Israel tries to genocide Iran, that's bad. All the genocide is bad. Doesn't matter who's doing it. Doesn't matter who the victim is. Doesn't matter who the perpetrator is. It's all bad. Can we agree on that?
Probably.
Okay. So I read a piece on that was talking about the Middle East geopolitical situation, where because of the tensions between countries there, what they effectively do, like, all of them know that they can't really go to war. Because if they go to war, it'll be like, even if they technically win the war, that'll still be the end of their regime, because none of them have enough power to really beat the others, except for maybe Israel, which would then have... But like, they don't want to poke that bear, kind of. But at the same time, they have to posture as though they are willing to go to war. So essentially, you have a bunch of like people, like, oh, if somebody attacks somebody else, they have to. They have to
have a retaliatory strike.
There has to be retaliation, but it has to be small enough that it won't provoke all-out war.
But which is why Iran said, "Hey, we are going to send missiles here.
Yeah.
We are going to bomb here. Do not have people here. We are going to send a strike here." Now,
they announced it well in advance. They sent it out. We knew it was coming. They had time to prepare. Everything, like, most things were shot down. Damage was minimal, but like, they had to make it a big display because of the violation that Israel committed when they destroyed the embassy. Because that's a huge no-no. So they had to do a big retaliation, but they didn't want an actual war. So they do the big retaliation, but with a bunch of warnings so that you can prepare for it. With all of that context out of the way, the billions that Biden supposedly handed to Iran was actually billions of dollars in money that South Korea owed to Iran from buying their oil. They bought a bunch of oil from Iran and said, here's $6 billion, but it's going in these South Korean banks that don't trust your Iranian banks, so they're not going to transfer the money to you, but it is there. So Iran was desperate for the money. They really, really wanted it. And as part of a hostage negotiation, Biden got them to release a bunch of American hostages in exchange for moving the $6 billion from South Korean banks to Qatari banks, which Qatar is a Muslim nation. They're much more friendly with Iran. And so that was the deal. We are moving money that rightfully belongs to Iran because they sold a product for a price, and that, like capitalism, that's their money now. But it's stuck in South Korean banks that don't trust the Iranian banks, so they won't transfer it. So they move it to the Qatari banks, which the South Korean banks did trust, and then the Qatari banks might be able to get it to Iran. But right after that move happened, and the United States got their hostages back, there was some other... I forget exactly what the details are here, but there was other geopolitical stuff that happened that caused Biden to renege on the deal a little bit. So they agreed with Qatar to say, we're going to put a freeze on this money, so Iran can't access it. So, yes, it's Iran's money that has been moved to a place that would be more accessible to Iran if it weren't frozen, but it is, and to this day, currently, it is still frozen. So Iran does not have access to that money. But the Republicans want you to think that this was Joe Biden directly funding Iran's attack on Israel. But that's just not what happened.
Added context changes everything.
Yeah, and needless to say, all that doesn't fit in a tweet. God damn it, Jassa. Let's see, do I have any new hats? Oh, the octopus, I haven't done that yet.
Specious says, I just know the nearest Whataburger is over 100 miles from me, and that's the one they keep flashing. Man, I want Whataburger. Whataburger's great, and I would drive. I have driven 100 miles for Whataburger. I'm not saying it was a smart thing to do, but I have done it.
What?
Driven 100 miles for Whataburger.
For a Whataburger? Ugh.
Yeah.
I can't see a burger being that good.
It's so that realistically, I was going to visit family, and Whataburger happens to be in the place I grew up. Okay. So the family was a nice icing on the cake to the Whataburger.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's the geopolitical context to the stupid thing that Lauren Boebert tweeted. Oh, case orbs.
Yay.
I don't remember if I covered this last time. I feel like we did, but it's always good. So Sorbo says, if illegals aren't voting in our elections, why do you care if we make it illegal? It's already illegal, Sorbo. It's already illegal for that to happen.
You already have to be a United States citizen to vote in a United States election.
Oh, I forget where I read it. It was a reputable source, but still double check this one for yourself. But I seem to recall that there was something like in the last 20 years, there have been a grand total of 85 instances of an illegal immigrant faking stuff to vote in an election. So like 85 instances in 20 years. That's not enough to turn an election. So this whole, they're letting illegals in so they'll vote for Biden. That's bullshit. Like, first off, there's no guarantee that an illegal immigrant will vote for Biden in the first place. Secondly, there would have to be an incentive for them to do it. Like, they're not just going to do it, because like voting as an illegal immigrant is a crime. You get caught with that, you get deported, you get sent back to your country. These people are coming here because they don't want to get sent back to their country. So like, there has to be enough of an incentive there to encourage them to actually do that. And there's not. Republicans can't point to one. It's just a bullshit talking point. Like we discussed last week, immigrants are actually really, really good for the economy, so you should just fucking let them in. The main objection I've seen to that is people talking about how like, oh, well, Sweden let a bunch of immigrants in, and their gang crime went off the charts. First off, that's not entirely true. There is a part of it, like there is a kernel of truth there, where there has been an increase in gang violence in Sweden since about 2000, and it is tied to immigration, but it's tied to immigration in the sense that the gangs are targeting low-income, vulnerable communities,
which happen to be the immigrant
if
communities.
If you don't provide for the immigrants, if you don't if you marginalize a community and then tell them this is how you can make some extra money by, it's like what's happening is they're targeting kids, because under Swedish law, if you're like under, I think it's 16, and you commit a violent crime like killing someone, you aren't held to anywhere near the same account as an adult. So they're getting kids to do these like drive-by shootings and shit for them. And they're paying them a lot of money to do it. And because they're desperate, they're taking these jobs. It's not because immigrants are dangerous. It's because they're desperate. You make them not desperate, and you protect yourself against that. Rosina says case orbs is virtue signaling. Absolutely.
So, to Falcon fan in the chat, who said illegal immigration is good for the economy. That sounds dumb as fuck. Come to my black community and say that shit. So I grew up in a black community. I grew up in Montclair in Pensacola, which is the drug ghetto in Pensacola, functionally. One of them, anyway. There were a few. So I can tell you that saying, tell that to the people in my community, it doesn't mean anything. I grew up in that community too. Doesn't mean shit. For two, I'll just go ahead and take a quote from the Associated Press. Many economists suggest that immigrants benefit the United States economy in several ways. They take generally undesirable, low-paying, but essential jobs that most United States-born Americans won't, like caring for children, the sick, and the elderly. They can boost a country's innovation and productivity because they are more likely to start their own business and obtain patents. I'm sorry, but
they're projected to add $7 billion to the economy in the next 10 years.
Not only do economists not agree with your take, but as somebody who also grew up in the ghetto, I don't give a shit about that take. So
Zalrock Vod says, "Glory to Ukraine, glory to heroes." Yes, I'm rooting for Ukraine. I don't think there's any glory in war, though. But yeah, no. But I also I did a little bit of digging into like per capita crime rates. United States beats Sweden hands down in every gun-related crime, every gang-related crime, every violent crime. The only one that Sweden had a higher per capita rate was rape, which that fucking sucks. I don't know how you would tie that to immigration aside from relying on tired old stereotypes that aren't actually true. But like, and it's not by a little either. It's like Sweden's per capita violent gun death rate is something like 0.0 or like 0.4 per 1,000 people. And in the States, it's 6. Like, it's not a little difference. So like, to say, oh, Sweden let immigrants in and the situation got worse for them. It's like, well, worse for them is still like 5 times better than it is in the States.
If it's 0.4 versus 6, that's like 12 times better.
Okay, sure, 12 times. I don't know.
Yay, math!
I can't do math on the top of my head. What the fuck do you think I am?
This city was built on math.
Rosina says rape is vastly underreported in the U.S. Yeah, that could be a thing as well.
I would assume so, but I don't know enough about the culture for other countries.
Yeah, I'm not
to say whether or not it's any more or less underreported here.
Yes, I'm not going to assume that Sweden has a higher report level without looking into that first. So like, I didn't really look into that because most people focus on things like gun crimes.
Yeah, gun crime's easier to track. There's a bullet hole.
Mm-hmm. Okay, someone sent another tip through Stream Elements, and I need to look into why my notifications stopped working the way they used to.
You see here,
activity feed. Oh, no, that was just. No, I'm just getting super chats, tips. I don't know.
Oh, Fritz, it is legal to have a gun in Sweden. They treat guns like cars. You can have a gun so long as you have a license to have a gun, and you can get that as early as 18 years of age.
Oh, that was Anonymous sent 420 and said Myanmar, I always pronounce it wrong. Myanmar's military dictatorship is losing, PogChamp. Which I'm not sure what that means. Like, I know Myanmar is the example of like when I say I don't want any religion to have political control. Often atheists will defend what they see as the peaceful religions, like Buddhism. But if you go to Myanmar, the Buddhists took power and were like, yeah, no, we're going to kill all the non-Buddhists. Well, not all the non-Buddhists, but I think it was specifically Muslims.
Mm-hmm.
If you kiss Cirrus, the curse will be lifted. What curse? I didn't know we were cursed.
There's a curse?
It's the curse of the...
Whoa.
So, yeah.
You know what? In a few months, you're going to be within striking distance of me, right?
No? Are you coming to Canada?
I am going to be going up north. I'll be close enough to make the jump.
We'll have to get together and like do a stream from a Starbucks or something, because I'm not sure I want you to know where my house is right now.
I don't know if I want to do a stream with a body.
Daughter of Wolves. Daughter of Wolves says, birth control literally makes women bi as well as more likely to be attracted to effeminate men.
What?
I mean, no.
I don't think that's
but
how
also,
sexuality works.
No, it's not. But like, also, even if it did, would that? Why is that a bad thing? Like, my partner is bi. I'm happy with that.
My partner's bi too. I'm pretty cool with that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with a bi woman.
Like, I don't see the problem. I don't. Where's the negative here?
Well, sir, we only don't see the problem because we're beta cucks.
Yes.
We're effeminate beta cucks.
I mean, the most beta thing called having a threesome with two women. Yes, the noted beta behavior. You're right.
I mean, you could argue that me wearing women's lingerie on a semi-regular basis on my main channel is kind of like effeminate behavior. But maybe it's an alpha move. I'm showing my dominance by making you wash my ass. I don't know. But anyway,
do it with gusto.
Yeah, so that's all bullshit. But what I found really funny about this was I clicked on her profile to just kind of see who she was. She has 6,666 followers.
Oh, it's Satan.
Yeah, I love it.
Thanks, Satan.
I just love that I happened to click on her profile while she had that many followers. And she's Catholic. And the only people I've ever met in real life that are actually bothered by the scary 666 number were Catholic. Like, I used to work with a lady who was at a restaurant. And so at the end of the night, if we took a bunch of cash payments, we would have a cash drop that we'd have to leave. So like we pay the cash that we owe the restaurant and we take the rest home as our tips or whatever. My cash drop one night was $666. Right on the money. No pennies, no cents, no nothing. It was $666. The Catholic lady that I worked with, who I was on friendly terms with, we always chatted, we had a good time or whatever. We had I considered us to be friendly. She refused to go anywhere near me for the rest of the night. She wouldn't walk out with me to the car. Like,
hey,
it was
Satan.
like kept her distance from me. And like, I thought she was joking at first, but like, no, she was dead fucking serious. She would not go near me because I had $666 was my drop.
Jesus Christ. Fritz says the furry looks at you and says only two women. Yeah, look, I've done it. It is a less enjoyable experience the more people you start piling in.
Snakes beg to differ.
I'm not a snake.
Donald Jaramillo says 6666 is the number of the four-dimensional beast.
Oh,
yeah,
fair enough.
That's another thing. Like, I considered not even taking the screenshot because, like, yeah, it's 6,666. It's not 666, so it's not even the evil number. It's the evil number plus 6,000. But that's never stopped the Christians from freaking out when they see a bunch of sixes in a row.
Yeah.
Also, the fact that if you look at the older manuscripts, the more reliable ones, the number was actually 616. So
don't tell them that. Don't tell them that. You'll shatter their worldview. They got to be scared of something.
I mean, it's also a numerological reference to Emperor Nero, like very clearly. Like that's very well documented in the scholarship on the matter. And Jassa got there. Jassa was just making the same point as me. Yeah, no, they didn't like Nero. So like Nero was the beast in that, because like the ancient Christians thought that they were the last generation, as has every generation of Christians since then. So
the end times is coming.
The end is
I swear. The end times is coming.
I just edited together my playlist of my response to Ellen White's book from the 1850s, where like it's a The End Is Nigh book from the 1850s that is still in print by the Seventh-day Adventist Church, that they're still distributing it and saying this was a very wise woman who knew what she was talking about. Meanwhile, what she was talking about was how the world was going to end within her lifetime.
But
over 150 years ago. So
Jesus Christ is the king of edging, I swear to God.
Yeah.
He's always coming. The second coming is coming. He swears.
Maybe he accidentally ordered those condoms that like have a numbing effect to make guys last longer. And that's why the second coming is taking so long.
He just sat there with like a thread and went, if I tie this around my dick, I'll come slower. The thread of destiny. The second coming will last forever.
He's doing that thing where, like, if you like squeeze the base of the penis and push in on the, like, on your perineum, you can like come backwards inside yourself or whatever, apparently. I don't know. I've never successfully done that, though, to be fair, I haven't tried that hard.
You said hard.
I did say hard, yes.
You did say hard. Tail says, after being nailed so hard by Romans, Jesus can only come with pegging. Look, the dude was hung like this. He was nailed by a bunch of Romans in front of everyone, including his mom. I don't want to know the kinds of kink he was into.
I have a video about that on my main channel. I forget what it's called. I'll leave a card when I edit this down. Let's see. Vice Rhino. I wonder if searching for Vice Rhino kinky is that. Yep. It's called The Lord Works in the Kinkiest Ways. And it's a response to J. Warner Wallace.
Jesus Christ was a carpenter, so he's an expert with wood.
Yep. And he wants to come inside your heart.
Let Jesus inside me.
Jesus wants to come inside you. He hung around with 12 guys and one prostitute.
In the desert, even. The Hare Desert nights get awfully cold. They had to stay warm somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And he was going to make them fishers of men.
Yep.
Does that make Jesus the original pickup artist?
Maybe.
Steampunk Hasselon goes, you can what with your perineum? Oh, yeah, Baba, you're right. Jesus was into feet stuff.
Well, remember how we were talking earlier about how wild the untamed internet of the 90s was?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where, like, at some point I was, like, looking for masturbation techniques other than just doing this a bunch. And that was one of them, is that, like, you squeeze the base of your penis and squish in on your perineum and you will come backwards, and apparently it feels really good.
No, it does not.
I've never successfully done it, so I will take your word for it.
It just, all it does is it stops it from coming out as much, and it doesn't feel good.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I feel like when there's more, it feels better.
Yeah, no, what you like, if you want it to feel better, the trick is edging. That is the secret, everybody. That is the secret. Do the sex but longer before you come. That is the secret. That's all it is. All of the hours, weeks of research you did as a teenager, fuck it all, except don't.
Yeah, but sometimes you only got 5 minutes before the kids get home from school, and you just need to take care of it.
And you know what? That's different. That's a different situation entirely.
Right, also, want to stay alive longer? Don't die.
And mind the prostate.
All right. Okay, that's it for today. Thanks for joining me, Cyrus.
The Semen Retention Society.
So, as always,